What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Had a little bit of time today. Wanted to set and do a video with you guys in the garage. A video I've been wanting to put up for a little while. Speaking of videos, I haven't got a lot up, and I know I've said that probably in the last couple videos that I had put up, that the job that I had switched for, which I had done a previous video on as well, I get up earlier, and so that means I'm trying to get to bed earlier, so I don't do as many videos through the week. I'm trying to work on that. There's quite a few that I still want to do and get up and get back to spending some time with you guys. And it's just when you got kids and life and work and everything else, it's easy to have other distractions, but I'm going to do my best, and that's kind of along the lines of today's video, where I wanted to kind of bring you guys along with me and just discuss, or not along with me, but I guess share with you guys a journey that I had started into in the last couple months. I hadn't really said anything about that I'm aware of as far as the channel goes, but anyway, motorcycles have kind of always been something that I liked and had interest in. It's something I'd always thought about doing, but you kind of get, at least in my experience, when I started discussing with other people that it was something I was thinking about getting into, or at least getting my motorcycle's license, which I kind of want to discuss that journey as well on today's video. How difficult it was to get a license and how you can go about that, at least what it's like in the state of Indiana. I'm pretty sure it's pretty universal across the board, but how I got a bike, how I decided and what I wanted to wind up with a bike, how I got my license, and just a little bit of my journey into wanting to experience this and in my life. So like I said, I'd kind of always had interest in motorcycles. I don't know if I've ever really shared within the channel before, but I've always liked things with two wheels. I used to mountain bike race a little bit. I've had some higher end bikes and things like that, which I know is different from something with an engine, but I've always enjoyed that. And mountain bike racing comes with its own dangers as well. But it's harder to carve out the time to go practice and ride. There's not that many places around me to go and get in some miles on a trail. Motorcycling was something I'd kind of, I guess it had popped into my head within the last 6 months or so, that I had revisited the thought of wanting to get a motorcycle, and the feasibility started to make a little more sense to me. I wanted to have something that if I had 20 minutes of downtime, or I had an entire afternoon, that I could get on it, I enjoy it, and just kind of clear my head. It's for anybody who's ever experienced riding, I kind of think it's like people that do yoga or meditation. It is a very relaxing experience. I think my wife, since I've got the bike, has experienced how it can kind of just really mellow you out and put you in a different frame of mind, and to just take a leisurely ride. So, but anyway, my past, for the people on here that keep up with what I do and the changes I've made in life, you'll know what I'm talking about, where I'm coming from. The people that don't, I guess, watch my channel all the time, hopefully you like the content and you stick around. But I gave up drinking, January will be around 3 years ago. Now, how I tie that into why I got a motorcycle, I never decided that it was for me, because I didn't trust myself not to mix drinking and riding. I just kind of knew that if I was somewhere, I probably wouldn't be able to say I don't need a drink, and then start dabbling with mixing riding and drinking, which for anybody that knows anything about motorcycling, that has a lot to do with most motorcycle related incidents. So I wouldn't say entirely, but it definitely does not help when you're trying to be highly aware of everything going on around you. And I just didn't trust myself not to mix the two. So for that reason, I really never did get a motorcycle in the past. And like I said, it kind of came back up within the last 6 months or so. And I really started giving it some thought as just something to be able to get out and do and clear my mind. Or I thought it would be a fun thing to be able to go on a date with my wife just locally here and ride the back roads, and just a different experience in life. And I had kind of decided that I didn't want to get to a stage in life where it was no longer possible and say, I wish I had really done that, or at least gave it a shot. So that's kind of how I arrived at owning a motorcycle in my mid to late 30s, I guess. But it's been a really fun thing to do. It's been a neat journey, and I look forward to, you know, continuing to ride over the years and to experience that. But just taking it on later in life, it's been a really neat thing. It's pretty funny because I've had a lot of discussions. People ask me about it, and you kind of get one or two takes on motorcycling. And for other people that keep up with the channel, I own firearms. It's not everybody's thing. I get it, but I grew up that way. I grew up around firearms. I very much grew up around the recreational side of firearms: hunting, sports shooting, target shooting, all kinds of different things that I saw an entirely different side of gun ownership, more so even than just on the self-protection side. So the reason I correlate that in is when I was discussing this path with some people of whether or not I should get a motorcycle, or just that I was entertaining the idea. Several people, you usually get one of a couple responses. You either get people that have owned them in the past, understand how fun and neat and relaxing they can be, or people that have never had anything to do with them at all, and they're probably just not going to have a very positive outlook on owning one. And I understand both, or they've known somebody that's got hurt on one, which I can understand, tends to jade somebody's view. But you know, I hate to live life that way, to not experience things just based off of, you know, well, this could happen. Again, for people that keep up with the channel, you know what I'm talking about. For people that don't, we have a diabetic daughter. She's actually double autoimmune, and we try to get her to live her life that way, that diabetes isn't a crutch, and anything that she wants to do, she can. And we very much had to face the facts of, we don't know what God, you know, has planned for tomorrow. We don't know what tomorrow has in the cards. Our lives changed really quick when she was diagnosed. And for those of you who have family members or know anything about diabetes, unless very strictly managed, it comes with a whole assortment of different problems that you can run into. And so does her celiac disease. So we don't like to, at least I don't like to jade my life view by thinking, well, this could happen, because I still want to enjoy my life and live my life and experience things that scare me, that push me and help me to grow. And that has a lot to do with why I decided to try this. And I like trying new things. I mean, that's like with the channel, with a lot of different things that I do. I like to experience new things and try new things, and things that push me and help me to learn and grow in different ways. And that's part of what was really fun about this, was getting my motorcycle license as well. So it's been a neat journey. like I said, I just wanted to kind of share that with you guys. It's been a video I've been thinking about. Had a good day and opportunity to kind of sit in the garage and talk with you guys. So I really enjoy it. The couple things that I really wanted to hit on, I guess, as far as information that I was going to share with you guys about it, I decided I really like more of an old school bike look. There's some Harleys that I like and different things that I've looked at over the years, but I've always kind of gravitated to a specific styling of bike, which is more of the British bikes, which Triumphs, Royal Enfields, BSAs, Nortons, all the bikes that kind of were very popular, you know, in Britain, and some of that styling transferred over here. I was really looking at, I didn't even think I was going to get a Triumph. I was really looking at Royal Enfields because of the affordability of them. And I just like this look. I like a stripped down, simplified bike. I can appreciate big, you know, cruiser bikes, but it's not my thing. I like the simplicity of just you and the bike, and not a lot of other things added to it. So cafe racers, British, you know, cafe bikes, bobbers, you know, hardtail bikes, different stripped down, more aesthetic looking bikes. I just like that look. So that's kind of how I wound up with the Triumph Scramblers, are another really neat design that I like. So that's how I wound up with this bike, as far as at least this style of bike. If you're thinking about getting a motorcycle, there's lots of different types of bikes you can get. But like I said, I looked at Royal Enfield, and the used market, they seemed really pricey based off of what I knew the MSRP was. So this is part of the motorcycle journey that I wanted to share with you guys as food for thought. If you're thinking about doing something like this, and you're new to the game, you don't have a lot of experience in this realm. I didn't until I chose to go down this path. But what I want to share is that as I was looking for bikes, and you can kind of look, and we've been in a weird climate, I guess, in the last 2 years, or 3 years, as far as shortages and things costing more and inflation, all these different things. So that has a weird factor on the consumer market, and what's available, what's not available, how much things cost, and so on. So I really liked the Royal Enfields because they very much kind of keep in line with the British cafe bike look, and I kind of honed my sights in on those mostly for the style and price. So looking at the used market, they seemed, from what I could tell, to be mostly in the 80 to 90% of close to MSRP for a used bike, and I thought that seemed kind of high. So what I did was I looked and kind of got to kicking around the idea of, I didn't really want to finance anything. I don't really like to, especially something that's going to be a toy. But I did think about it, you know, it being a nice thing to go to a dealership and have the warranty and all that different stuff. So, you know, some of my family had kind of known what I'd been kicking around the idea of. I talked my dad into riding. There's a Royal Enfield dealer within about an hour and a half of where we live. So we rode down on a Saturday. I had, you know, reasonable intentions on coming home with a motorcycle at that time. And at that time, that stage of the game, I only had a permit. So if you're going to look at a motorcycle somewhere at a dealership and all you've got is your permit, from my experience, most likely they are not going to let you test drive anything on a permit. Or at least that's the way the state I live in and the state just south of us was. So we get down there, we take a look at it. I kind of reasonably knew what to expect to spend, and the guy kind of kept hinting towards there could be additional fees, or there are some additional fees. I really didn't, he was talking about taxes and paperwork fees, the usual stuff you expect. But then he was talking about some other things as far as like assembly charges and freight charges and so on. And I don't know how much that translates across the board to different makes, models, manufacturers, but at least it did where we were at. And bottom line, I went down there with $2,000-ish to put down on the bike. The MSRP was around $6,000. So my game plan is to come out of there well under $5,000. I didn't feel like that was going to be as big of a issue to discuss with my wife when I got home, and be like, yeah, no big deal, I'll knock it out. I do make a little bit of money from the channel, so things like that it didn't have any effect on what I do for a living, what I bring home, and all that. And that was my rationale anyway. So I go down, and he starts explaining some of these things, and I'm starting to get the gist that it's not going to be anywhere near what the sticker on this bike is. So, and I'll kind of add to this part of the story, which is I really hadn't decided. I was still pretty apprehensive about owning a motorcycle. I really have gotten to a stage in life where I didn't want to be, I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to take time away from my family or my kids to do things that are just related to me. I was thinking about being able to do some stuff with me and the wife on it, but I had also a lot of thoughts of, well, what if I get out and I get hurt on the motorcycle? So I had a lot of unsettled, I guess, apprehension that I was still thinking about. I don't typically like going into stores, especially for large purchases anyway, so I just wasn't quite settled. I hadn't really worked it all out in my head yet, and if that's what I wanted to do. But nonetheless, the guy could tell that I was, kind of being indecisive. My dad and I were there. I did not care for this guy's sales approach, even in the slightest. I've worked at different dealerships. I know how the game works. I know what they do. I tried to kind of be, pretty down to earth with the guy and explain to him, I'm like, I've worked at dealerships. I know the game. I know how it works. I have never been the type to be really heavily persuaded by a salesman, because I know the tactics, and I guess I was having this discussion with somebody else. I guess we live in such a heavy want society that tapping into that human trait of I deserve it, I want this, and just really going on impulse decision, I guess that works for a lot of people. It doesn't really work for me. The more you kind of drill into my head that this is something I need and all this, and when it's strictly a want, the more you could probably almost steer me away. So I was frustrating him pretty good, to say the least, because of my apprehension or just unsettled decision making at that time. So we sat down and he said, well, hope maybe I'll be able to help your decision making if we can kind of get closer to about what you think you're going to spend. So, we kind of started the paperwork process without starting the paperwork process. They didn't run my credit or anything like that. He was just trying to do their little 4-squared sheet that they do at a lot of dealerships, where they kind of, I don't know why they do this. To me, it always seems, again, super cheesy. It's a way of them kind of making you feel like you've got some say-so in what's happening, and really at the end of it, they're just telling you, it seems like they're trying to kind of divert the attention around of how you're going to arrive at this price that's nowhere near what the hell the price should be on the sticker. So whatever. The guy goes through it, and he's like, all said and done, you're probably going to be at like $8,200. And I just didn't, I was already indecisive, but I just wasn't prepared for what I had taken to basically only wash out the cost and associated fees of the dealership and be back at the sticker price of the vehicle or the motorcycle. Which I've read other comments and things of people online and that people that knows how the game works. I get it. I'm just the type of person that's like, put that information up there. If you have flat cost and fees when you get a bike built and it was freighted and shipped in, I would rather see that on the hang tag so I know what to expect to have to spend rather than be surprised with it at the counter. So that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. If you're thinking about doing something with a motorcycle, again, I don't have a lot of experience at dealerships when it comes to more of the recreational toys. Maybe this is something that's really common when it comes to four-wheelers and ATVs and side-by-sides. I don't know. But I don't like when I feel like people are playing games with or trying to hide costs down, and then you go in trying to make a decision based off of retail price you've seen online, and then it, maybe it's not a big deal on a $30,000 Harley when you add $2,000 or $3,000 to it, but when you're looking at a baseline MSRP $5,000 or $6,000 motorcycle, and we just added well over 20% to what I thought I was going to spend, that is a big deal to me. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just stupid and I didn't realize that's what I was going to deal with. But again, I wanted to share that experience because if getting a motorcycle is something you're thinking about doing, it's probably not the time of year for most people in the U.S. to be getting it, but maybe you're thinking about it in the spring. Right now, as I'm filming this video, it is the fall of 2022. So, again, crummy day, just wanted to share this information. But that's my experience with looking at a motorcycle at a dealership. Nonetheless, I found this one used within about that same time range, hour and a half, 2 hours away from where we live. It was a two-owner bike. It was an older gentleman, very well kept and very low mileage bike. It's about 12 years old and it only had about 4,700 miles on it when I got it. So, I didn't think I was going to be able to get into a Triumph at that price point. I was able to get it from them for right around $5,000. So I thought that was fairly reasonable considering other ones I had seen and priced that at. So I went up, we picked it up, gentleman was very nice, and I still came home, $2,000 to $3,000 less than what I was going to be at a dealership for a less expensive bike. These, I think, new right now are in the 12 range from what I've seen online. Most of the Bonneville lines, or at least in the T100 line. But this is a 2010, like I said, Bonneville T100. That means it's got about a 865 cc engine. I've heard some people call it a 900, but I believe the actual cc is 865. It's pretty cut and dry. It's an air-cooled engine with, it does have an oil to air cooler on it. And really, it's not, there's really no tech or anything like that on the bike. It's pretty cut and dry. These are not carburetors on it. I actually initially thought, I didn't know where they had cut off converting the bikes over from carburation to fuel injection. These are just like a throttle body. So this is a fuel injected bike. For the Triumph people out there, they'll probably be able to tell you exactly, but I believe it was around 06, 07, Triumph went to EFI bikes and started getting rid of the carburation on their newer bikes. So, I mean, I love this bike. I think it's a blast to ride. I've been extremely happy with my my journey into motorcycling this far. And trying to think, like I said, there was several key things I wanted to share with you guys on it. I just wanted to make sure I hit them all. But it really has been a neat journey. My wife and I have been able to go on a few dates and get out on the bike, and with the fall weather around here, really just enjoy the area and the weather and the scenery. So I don't have any negative responses to motorcycling as of yet. I kind of treat, you know, all situations as though people don't see me. A point I wanted to make earlier, getting back to the gun point, and why I kind of correlated those things, is I think very similarly with motorcycling, just as with firearm ownership, it's as dangerous as you want to make it. And there are certain things that are out of your control in both of those worlds. But I'm a firm believer that if you do all of, you know, your extreme due diligence to make sure you've mitigated as many risks down as you can, it's fairly safe, as long as you're trying to minimize those risks and not make it more dangerous than it has to be. So, you know, if you're not riding and trying to make riding dangerous, then, you know, it's not going to be overly dangerous when you're treating it like you should be, with a certain amount of respect that you should be. And in firearm ownership, it's very much the same way. If you've learned good basic firearm skills and you always treat a firearm like it's loaded, you know, and you have good safety skills, that makes a huge difference on, you know, minimizing risks, minimizing problems. And it's very similar with a motorcycle, I think. You know, if you treat people and you treat yourself, if you always yield to a more superior vehicle and don't put yourself in unnecessary risk positions, that's going to drastically, you know, help the chances that you don't get into a collision. Just like if you treat yourself as though you're always unseen by vehicles, that they cannot see me, even if you know they can see you, you say that maybe they can't. It's going to help drastically on the problems that you're going to run into motorcycling. Doesn't mean it takes it all out of the equation, but ride with a level of respect for the bike, for those around you. You're going to be okay, you know, and get the proper training that you think you need to have skills to get on one. Which kind of brings me to the, I guess, next part of the video. Sorry if I paused a second ago. I was trying to see if this was focusing in and out, or the lighting kept changing, but I couldn't tell if it was just where I was moving with the camera or not. So anyway, again, like I said, that brings me to the other part of the video that I wanted to explain, which was my experience in getting a permit and a license, or my endorsement, however you want to say it. That was a really fun thing for me. I actually like learning new things or being tested and kind of trying to figure out stuff that I have interest in. So in the state of Indiana, how it basically works is you have one of two options on gaining or getting a motorcycle endorsement. You can either go to the BMV and take a test, and if you pass that test for a motorcycle permit, they will issue you a permit to then go out and ride a motorcycle. It comes with 3 restrictions on that permit. You must have a helmet on, you cannot have a passenger on the bike, and you cannot ride at dark. Those are pretty much the only 3 restrictions that I'm aware of that were stated on the permit when I got it. But once you obtain that permit and you maintain those 3 restrictions, or don't push those 3 restrictions, you're fully legal to ride the motorcycle on the road. I believe that permit is good for a calendar year, and from what I remember reading, it can be renewed at least once, I believe, for another year. But I mean, that you should be able to go and take your skills exam well before that, but I've known people that's ridden on permits for a lot longer. So that's basically the route that I went. The other route that you can go is you can go through a school or training school that I don't know how much of it they facilitate, because that's not the route that I chose to go, and it's a bit costly. I've been on other ATVs, motorcycles, different things. I've operated equipment, so the mechanics of riding and the understanding of riding really didn't scare me to go the route of permit and then taking my skills exam. But it was costly. I think the one testing facility in our location, which by the way was completely booked out from as far as I could see. So even if you wanted to go that route, I didn't see any available classes, at least in our area, but it was around $400, which I thought was kind of steep. I get kind of frustrated that we pay as much as what we do, and local, state taxes, highway taxes, all these different things, and then all of our registration fees and title fees and all these different things to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, who is not responsible, from what I can tell, for you being able to obtain a motorcycle endorsement or even a commercial driver's license for that matter. But I didn't really understand why they do it the way that they do. There is a company that somehow has affiliation with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles in Indiana that's called Abate, which is they only deal with motorcycling. They put on all of the clinics and the skills exams and all that different stuff for people to be able to obtain a motorcycle's license. I have no problem with making sure that someone's safe, and okay to ride before they get on a bike. But if it wasn't about money and it was really about people being safe on the road, I can't hardly buy that, because it seems really backwards. Because like I said, all you have to do is take a written exam, and then you can ride this thing wherever you want. And they really haven't ensured whether or not you even obtained the skills to ride. So the second part of getting my endorsement was you do the permit, and then you take whatever time you feel like you need, or schedule the skills exam as soon as you are ready to go take the riding exam on the motorcycle. But I tried to just go ahead and get it done and get it out of the way. I had probably about a month in between when I got my permit, I got my bike, and then I got my endorsement. So the second part of getting the full endorsement or license through Indiana is you get your permit, and then you have to take that skills exam. The skills exam basically contains 4 different riding course tests that you have to pass all of those skills and test with, I guess, a certain minimal number of infractions. I don't know how many things you're allowed to miss, but there's 4 riding tests. I had to go to a location, luckily, that's not too far from where I live. It's about 20 minutes. But as far as south of Indianapolis in the state of Indiana, there was only 3 locations that I could find on that company's website that were testing locations for a skills exam on a motorcycle, which I thought was kind of strange. Like I said, you're making people jump through a lot of hoops to obtain a motorcycle license. And the second part of that, I did want to explain what those 4 tests were, but circling back before I forget, I wanted to tell you guys that I just think it's kind of strange, because there was a couple people that failed whenever I rode the skills exam, and I think it seems just kind of backwards. You can get a permit and then you ride to this test location, but then whether you pass or fail, you came on a motorcycle, and this individual is telling you, well, you don't obtain the skills to own a motorcycle endorsement, but it's like you allowed this individual to ride a motorcycle to that location and then leave on that motorcycle. I just didn't really understand. Like I said, I think, again, Some of it obviously has to do with money. Otherwise, I don't think that's the way it would be. It seems like they would want to know if it was about safety that you can ride before you get on a bike. Nonetheless, that's I guess another argument for a different time, but that seemed a little screwy to me. But I went, the skills test requires you to pass, like I said, 4 riding exams. From what I understand, most states, it's pretty much a variation of somewhat of these 4 types of riding tests. How they operated this one, you got in a line, there was one instructor, and then he would set up one test at a time, and everybody would go through and either complete or fail that part of the test before he set up the next riding test. So they're basically obstacle courses or cone, some form of a cone test. The first one we did was you had to, I'm trying to think which one they did actually have us do first. It was a form of a, no, the first one we did was a cone weave test. So you started off from a dead stop on the bike. You then had to maneuver a certain number of cones in a weave. They don't want you to touch the ground in any, again, I don't know what the allowable amount of fractions or infractions are, but you weave through the cones, you go down, you make a full 90-degree turn on the bike, you come back and you stop and place your front tire inside of a box on the bike. The second test was from a dead stop, you make a 90-degree turn directly from that stop inside of a painted line. You go down, you kind of cross the parking lot at an angle, you go down, you make another U-turn, you come back and you put that tire back in that same box. The next test was an acceleration and stop test. You had to accelerate the bike between 12 and 18 miles an hour in a short distance, and then stop the bike within so many feet to get past that section of the test. And then the final test was a obstacle weave test. So in the same fashion as the one before, where you had to stop in so many feet but accelerate to 12 to 18 miles an hour, you had to do the exact same thing, accelerate the bike from about 12 to 18 miles an hour, and then weave an obstacle in a very short section without crossing too far out, and then bring the bike to a complete stop safely. So that was pretty much it. It is nerve-wracking when you're trying to get up there, you're trying to get it past, you're not trying to waste your time or your day. That part cost us each $40. Everybody that tested had to pay $40, and everything was on your accord. You had to show up on a fully licensed, fully operable bike that can pass an inspection. You had to have your own safety equipment. You had to provide your money, your permit, I believe a copy of that permit. Yeah, we had to have a copy. And then we also had to have, I believe, a couple of signed papers that were waivers, that they were not responsible for anything should you get hurt or fail or whatever. So that was basically how it all went. I didn't have a negative experience. Maybe some people have had a negative experience. If you've had a different experience with your journey into motorcycling, drop us a comment and let me know about it. Because like I said, I did have a lot of fun doing this, and I've been doing nothing but enjoying the bike up until I don't think I'm going to be able to ride too many more times this year without some decent cold weather gear. But I've also been kind of learning a little bit about what it takes to work on this. I've got the stuff to do my first oil change on it. I might bring you guys on that video. I'm going to put a different set of tires on this bike. I planned on maybe filming that. But it's just been something neat. Like I said, I've always kind of liked sharing that stuff with you guys and the transparency. This is the part that I enjoy about the channel, of bringing you guys along and just sharing what I'm doing in life and things that are fun to me. So, if you've got comments on it, like I said, let me know. how your journey into motorcycling was. Like I said, this one was mine. I thought it was fun. I felt like I wanted to share it. So we appreciate you kind of hanging out with us here and watching the video. Like I said, I've got a couple more I'm going to be putting up soon. But just thought I would share this experience with you. Let you know that I've been riding and enjoying that part of it. So we look forward to seeing you on the next video. And like I said, we appreciate you hanging out with us here. Take care and have a good day.